Welcome to Office Mix with classification keys. What we're learning today is using simple classification keys to identify unknown organisms. So our essential questions and what we're actually learning today is we're learning how to identify an organism with a dichotomous key, a classification table, a flow chart, and a branch diagram. You'll know that you've been successful at learning this standard as we go throughout and we take exit tickets at the end of this. Some of the things we're going to do while we learn about this, not only just taking notes, but we are going to do some activities using these different types of keys in identifying true organisms and those fictitious ones. So starting off, classification keys, we need to know first some general classification concepts. So we start with taxonomy. Write this down. Taxonomy is the science of defining, naming, and classifying organisms. If you need to pause at this time, go ahead and pause so you can get the definition. If not, let's proceed. Organisms are classified according to similar physical and genetic characteristics. You talked about genetics last year, and so we're going to start off with the most very basic concept, those organisms that have nucleus and those that do not. So in modern taxonomy, there are 8 levels of classification. They start very broad, which is wide, to very narrow. First, we have domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. And again, this goes from broad to narrow. What I'd like to remember is kind of a little chant to go back and forth. I'll start off and say, we have, and you would respond with domain, and I would respond kingdom. You would say phylum, I would say class. You will say order, I will say family. You'll say genus, and I'll say species. So it would go kind of quick, like we have domain and kingdom and phylum and class and order and family and genus and species. So you kind of can just go quickly through that, but that's a good way to remember the different order of them. Domain and kingdom and phylum and class and order and family and genus and species. But don't fret, if you can't learn it that way, I've got some other tricks. So to kind of give you another idea of how this classification system works, we're going to use the example of Oakland Middle School. We start very broad in saying that we are in the universe. From there we bring it down to the Milky Way galaxy, then our solar system, then planet Earth, to North America, United States of America, Tennessee, and finally Murfreesboro. Murfreesboro then is kind of our smallest area or section, and that would be kind of like to go along with maybe the species category underneath our classification system. In these classification levels, like I said, there's a couple memory tricks. The first one is to think of old King Philip. And I've heard this several different ways, but we can think of it as, did King Philip come over from Great Spain? So did King Philip come over from Great Spain? And we're going to look at the D for domain, K for kingdom, P for phylum, C for class, O for order, F for family, G for genus, and S for species. If you didn't like that one, here's another one, a second memory trick, if you will. So we have Donkey Kong here for all those wonderful gamers out there, my husband included. So Donkey Kong puts children on flying giant squirrels. This one I like a little better. I think it's a little more funny. So again, you can see we have D for domain, K for kingdom, P for phylum, C for class, O for order, F for family, G for genus, and last but not least, S for species. if you have not yet, take time right now to write down domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. And then go ahead and either write down the memory trick that's on this screen or come up with your own memory trick. Sometimes if you make it personal in your own, you'll do a little bit better and you'll remember it better. Go ahead, if you need to pause, hit the pause button. If not, we'll move on. So now that we've kind of talked about the broad view of classification, we need to realize how organisms are classified. And they're classified according to similar physical and genetic characteristics. And it's important we talk about genetic. We can't just talk about characteristics of organisms that look the same. So at the domain level, organisms are classified according to whether or not their cell or cells contain a nucleus. And you talked about prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells last year, and so we're going to look at the difference. Most of the organisms we talk about when we discuss our classification key are in this eukaryotic cell section. These are the cells that have a nucleus. And excuse my circle there. But these are the ones that have a nucleus in the center of the cell. So a second example is looking within that classification organization and levels. If we look at the class level, we can see how animals are grouped by their similar physical characteristics. So we have classes of animals. So we have the birds, the fish, the mammals, amphibians, reptiles, and insects. So all of our animals are broken down into these 6 categories. Before we go too much further, we need to know about this term binomial nomenclature. And it's kind of long, but really it's simple if you break it apart. Again, binomial nomenclature. So around 1735, Carolus Linnaeus created a 2-part naming system called binomial nomenclature. Now we think of our names as our first name and our last name. Binomial nomenclature is kind of the same thing. The issue is we have so many different types of certain animals around. Scientists, when they're referring to them, they need to make sure they are sticking to a scientific name, kind of like we stick with metric or the International System of Units when we are measuring things. We want to stick with all meters so we're all on the same page. Scientists do the same thing when they are naming organisms. It doesn't matter what language, if you're speaking English, Spanish, if you're speaking Latin, it doesn't matter. We can all come down and say each organism has a specific scientific name no matter what language you speak in. And that's the one, again, that our scientists use. So in Latin, to help you kind of remember this, bi means 2. And it's kind of hard for you to see. Let me get a different color here. Bi right here means 2. And nomial means name. And you kind of have the N and the M in each of these. And so nomial means name. And so that's how we can remember binomial means 2 names. We use the last 2 classification levels, genus and species. That's because these are the most specific and narrowest terms that we can use that will really separate all of the different organisms. So the first example, and this one is one you need to know, is human beings. Our genus name is Homo and our species name is Sapiens. Okay, so Homo sapiens. So if we look at our Homo sapiens, our domain is eukarya because we have a nucleus. Okay, and bear with me, I'll try to write this out for you, but we have a nucleus. N-U-C-U-S. All right, then we go to kingdom, which is Animalia, phylum, which is Chordata, class is Mammalia. So we are in the class of Mammalia or mammals. So we are actually in a class with other types of animals. Then we go to our order, our primates. This is where we share kind of on the same level as apes as you would modernly see. Family is Hominidia, our genus is our Homo, and our species is our Sapiens. So again, our binomial nomenclature is our two-part naming system. The first part is the genus, the second part is our species. So a few more examples. We have wolves, which are considered Canis lupus. We call them wolves for short, but the scientific name is Canis lupus. Domesticated dogs, just your regular dogs that we have as house dogs, are Canis familiaris. Again, we like to just say dogs, it's easier. But this we can really tell the difference of wolves and dogs are closely related because they have that same genus, which is Canis. And it's not always just that they look alike, but they share a lot of features. The next thing we have is domesticated cats, which is Felis catus. And then the last one is our bottlenose dolphins, or Tursops truncatus. Excuse my pronunciation. I do want to also make a note of this word domesticated. Domesticated is kind of something that's not wild. It's the opposite of wild. So let's go ahead and do some review questions. I want you to write these questions down and try and go back in your notes and see if you can find the answers. So I'll just simply read them to you and be prepared to discuss these and the answers in class tomorrow. So we have, what is taxonomy? What is binomial nomenclature? What are the 8 levels of classification? What 2 levels are used for the scientific names? And what is the scientific names for humans? All right, what we're going to do next is we're going to move on and we're going to talk about how we can use those 8 levels of classification to really identify specific organisms. And the way to do that is the 4 ways that I was talking at the very beginning of this presentation. There's 4 different types of keys or tables, if you will, that can help us identify what an organism is based on its physical and genetic characteristics. So let's take a look at those now. So again, our classification keys, these are keys or maps or guides to help us identify organisms. The first we're going to start with is called a dichotomous key. This includes paired descriptive statements to identify organisms. So when we see that word paired, we know that paired means 2. So it's going to ask you kind of a yes/no question, or does it have this or does it not have this? As you can see here, our first question and statement is, does it have short, broad ears or long, rabbit-like ears? Now this question is a little tricky, but in the scheme of this bat here, are these ears short or do they seem pretty big for this bat? So according to this, these are actually long rabbit ears. So if they have the long rabbit-like ears, we're going to go to step 3. We're going to completely skip step 2 because this bat does not have short, broad ears. So all of 2 is skipped. We are going directly down to question 3. Does it have a triangular shaped nose or a round nose with lumps on the side? And if you look at this one, it's a little hard to tell. You might be able to zoom in just a little bit, but it has more of that point at the top right here. So I would say that this is more of a triangular nose. So I would say it's the Macrodus californicus. The next type of classification key is our classification tables. Classification tables has columns and rows, just like any normal table that we have. And please make sure that you're getting these examples written down. So the very first one is a Sumatran rabbit, or a Nesologus netcheri. Again, excuse the pronunciation. So it has coat. Its coat is gray fur with brown stripes, has a large or tall ears. Its tail is large or woolly, lots of wool, and its legs are long and gray. Okay, if you look down here, the riverine rabbit, it changes because it has now a brown fur instead of the gray fur up here, and it has black stripes instead of these brown stripes. Okay, so it's very different here. It might have the same type of ears and tail as the first rabbit, but its legs and its coat are different. This is probably the most common type of graph classification chart you're used to, which is a classification table. The third one is a flow chart. It's similar to a concept map. It branches off. It starts with one and it's yes or no questions. So we start here. Does the fish have more than one fin on its back? Well, if we look here, we see 1, 2. So we know that it's going to be yes. Because I already know my answer is no, I don't need to know any of this information over here on the side. So I can cross that out. I already know I'm on the yes side. Now I see, are the fins connected? Well, if we look here, it's kind of hard to tell on this, but to me it does not look like they're connected. So we're going to cross this off, and I'm going to say no. And then it says, is the tail forked? And if you think of a fork, okay, that we eat with, and again, not a very good picture, but fork just means it's split. There's no room, there's room in between it here. And if you can see, this is kind of a forked tail. It's kind of split a little bit. So I'm going to say that this is a yellow perch. The hardest part about this is really trying to determine if you consider that forked or not. The flow chart itself is not really that difficult. What makes it a little more challenging is, again, trying to figure out exactly how the picture is interpreted. And last but not least, we have the branch diagram. And this one is probably the most difficult one. It looks similar to a tree branch, but it lists traits applied to all those organisms that come after. So if you look here, and I'm going to change my color, if you look here, hair and mammary glands, well, we have the platypus that comes after that. So platypus has hair and mammary glands. But when we see this giving birth to live young, the platypus comes before this, so platypus do not give, or platypi, I think is the plural term, do not give birth to live young because it has come before this option here. So all three of these animals give birth to live young, but the platypus does not. Now we come to the brown bear, and the brown bear has hair and mammary glands, gives birth to live young, but it does not have retractable claws. And retractable just means that you can pull it in and out, like kind of on call. A bear's paws have claws that are out all the time. The next we see is a lion, and the lion is just showing me that it has mammary glands and hair, it gives birth to live young, it has retractable claws. And then the very last one is our house cat. And our house cat has every single one of these options that come before it. So all four of these things describe the house cat. This is your most difficult diagram, so please make sure you study it and you know how to read it. So let's go ahead and practice the dichotomous key just a little bit. So here's an example of our dichotomous key. So we are trying to identify a species of bear. So if we look here, our first two questions is, does it have white fur or it does not have white fur? So as you can see here, if we're looking at this bear, okay, this bear does not have white fur. So it's not A, so we can cross off A. So now we know that we need to go to step 2. So step 2. It has brown fur. It does not have brown fur. Well, to me, that still does not look brown. It looks very much black, so it's not brown fur. So we're going to cross off the species. So now we go to step 3. Step 3, it has black fur. It does not have black fur. So we know that it does have black fur, so we do not have to go to answer B. We just know that this is an Ursus americanus. So if you start again at 1A and then read the paired statements, Then you can choose which choice best fits that statement, which is what we just did. So again, we go through the second steps, and it's all just going to tell you to go to step 3, because that's the correct one. And then the very last one, we look at 3A and then 3B, and we know that our answer here is it has black fur. So again, my name is Ursus americanus. And remember, if we go back, we know that we get our name from our genus and our species. So our genus is Ursus and our species is Americanus. So let's go ahead and take a stop here to look at a video link that talks about a dichotomous key. Alright, so here is the dichotomous key video.
Today we will learn how to use a dichotomous key. What is a dichotomous key? Let's first look at the Greek prefix in the word dichotomous, di. It means two, twice, or double. We see it used in the words dioxide, as in carbon dioxide, which is a compound made of one carbon atom and two oxygen atoms. Dialogue is another word for the prefix di. It is conversation between two people. So knowing that information, how does that help us with the meaning of dichotomous? A dichotomous key is a series of paired questions which lead to the identification of an item. It is commonly seen written vertically, branching down from the paired statements, or as a table of paired statements leading to the next set of paired statements. Okay, let's go ahead and try to follow the path of a dichotomous key with a familiar topic, money. On this slide, we see a picture of paper money and coins. Also provided is the dichotomous key to help us identify our mystery coin. Let's pretend we do not know what coin this picture is showing. Let's look at the first set of paired questions. Is it made of metal? Yes or no? Our coin is made of metal, meaning it's not paper money, so we follow the directions it tells us to go on to question 2. Is it a silver type color? Yes or no? Our mystery coin is silver in color, so we would answer yes. That being the case, we go to question 3. Is the outer edge smooth? After closer observation of our coin, we see that it does indeed have smooth edges. Therefore, we have utilized our dichotomous key for money identification to find out that our mystery coin is a nickel. Let's do another example, this time with a living organism. Here is our mystery organism. Here is our dichotomous table that will help us identify our organism. Our first set of questions asks if our organism has 6 legs or does not have 6 legs. Ours does have 6 legs, so let's follow the branch. The next set of paired statements are has antennae or no antennae. Our organism does have antennae. That branch leads us to our final statements, large hind legs for hopping or no large legs for hopping. Our organism does have large legs for hopping, so our organism is a grasshopper. Today we will learn how to use
And let's go ahead and take another practice at our dichotomous key. So now we're going to identify this species of dinosaur. So if we look at this dinosaur, let's go ahead and see if we can figure out what it is. We notice first that it does not have wings, so we go to step 2. At step 2, does it walk on 2 legs or not walk on 2 legs? And if we look here, we can go ahead and count. Obviously, it has more than 2 legs, so we're going to say that it does not walk on 2 legs. From there, we go to step 3. Does it have a long neck or not have a long neck? And we can tell it does, in the scheme of things, have a long neck. So we know that this is an Apatosaurus. We don't even need to go on to step 4 in order to tell out what it is. So our first dinosaur is an Apatosaurus. We can use this same classification key to figure out the name of the second dinosaur. It is a Stegosaurus. Again, if you look, it does not have wings. It does not walk on two legs. It does not have a long neck, so we know it's a Stegosaurus. Go ahead and see if you can try and figure out what the third dinosaur is. So our third dinosaur, it has wings, so it shouldn't have taken you that long. It is a pterodactyl. And our dinosaur number 4. Go ahead and figure it out. And it will not always be a process of elimination. Okay, but this one is a T-Rex. All right, let's look at this next activity. We have a Triceratops and an Ankylosaurus, a Spinosaurus, and a Velociraptor. I would like for you to take time now to make a dichotomous key about these organisms. We will stop the video for a moment and I'll give you a chance to make those up, and then we will continue on. Okay, so let's go ahead and review. What kind of classification key is this? Who thinks they can guess? This here is a flow chart, and it's kind of like if I take a big bucket, and excuse my bucket, that looks more like a rock, and I pour water into it and I pour it down at the top, it's going to flow down. And so that's how we can tell that this is a flow chart, because it just flows all the way down. So that's my flow chart. So the next one we have, I can go ahead and erase the screen. Let's see if we can figure out what this chart is. All right, this one is our dichotomous key, and this is what you copy down from page 53 in your textbook. So this is a dichotomous key, and this is one that we will use a lot. The next type of classification key is this one here. This is simple. You see it all the time, and I made reference to it before when we talked about data. This one here is your classification table. Again, it's a table because it's nice and square and boxy, and it's, you know, a table is nice and square and things that you'd like to eat off of. And then our very last one is our branch diagram. It's kind of like the branch of a tree. So let's go ahead and review. Here's some questions you might see on a quiz or test. Let's see if we can answer these. These are going to be good review for you. If you get stuck on something, try to figure out where you got stuck. So then when we go ahead and take a quiz or an exit ticket in class, you'll be able to do well. So this says, to what class does the organism belong? So we start off first, does it have a soft body? Well, yes, we know that's our only option. Now, does this have a shell or no shell? And again, we see that no shell is not an option. So we know our answer is going to be shell. Now, is it a coiled shell or two symmetrical shells? So the first thing, if you don't know what coiled or symmetrical is, we know that this one says two. And if I look here, it does not look like it has two shells. To me, it looks like it's something different. It looks like it's wrapped around in a circle like this. And a coil is exactly that. A coil is something that's spun around and around. So we know that our answer here should be gastropoda. Let's try another question. Using a classification table now, which is an example of a non-segmented worm with no body cavity. So first we see non-segmented. So we need to look at segmented. And it's not the yes one. It either has to be a flat worm or a round worm because it says it's non-segmented. Then we also have to know it has no body cavity. So if we find the table body cavity, Again, our top line, since we've already crossed it out, we already know it's wrong. So then we see this one here says no, and this one says modified. We don't want modified, we want no. So we have to say that this is our answer here. And so the type of worm it has is a flatworm. And let's see if it gives us our answer here. It's non-segmented, no body cavity, so it is our flatworm. And so in this one, we don't even have one of our correct answers, but that's okay. And so our flatworm, but we do. And so just like that, sometimes I make a mistake. It's okay to make mistakes. We see here the type of worm is a flatworm, but we want to know an example, and that's something that we do not slow down sometimes and answer, and that could give us the wrong answer. So make sure we slow down and read. We need to pay attention to detail. Just like I made a mistake here, you can as well, and I don't want you to get these answers wrong simply because you make a mistake of not going slow enough. So I see our example category here, and we see tapeworm is an example. All right, giving us another question. Does the fish have more than one fin on its back? And I'm going to let you go ahead and try and answer this one since we did this one in class a few minutes ago. So does it have more than one fin? Yes. Are they connected? No. Is it forked? Yes. So our answer is the yellow perch. So we stopped off and said that this was an oval shaped. So that tells me I go completely to step 4. So I'm going to skip 2 and 3. Now I can just tell, does it have no tail or a tail? And once we go to step 4, then we know it does not have a tail, so this is a water penny. All right, one more. Which of the following characteristics would identify a flowering plant and eliminate the other species? So which of these two would identify a plant that flowers and it eliminates all the other ones? So if we look at flowering, we want to know that it flowers. So this one does. This one does. This says some species. We know this is no, so we need to cross that off. Okay, and then this one does. So now we need to find a way that we can get rid of all the other ones. And so we have the seeds are enclosed in a fruit, and it has true leaves, stems, and roots. Okay, so which one of these would eliminate all the other ones? So our seeds are enclosed in fruit, is a flowering plant, it's not a fern, and it's not a conifer, so it eliminates the other species. So these seeds are enclosed in a fruit. Okay, none of these other species have no and no in this category, so it needs to be flowering plant, and it eliminates all other options. And that looks like that was the last question for us today. So hopefully you understood it. Hopefully you took some good notes. And if you have any questions, please write them down so you can ask me tomorrow and we can go over them.